Coming up on First at 4, an anniversary marking mass destruction as Governor Beshear visits eastern Kentucky 2 years after the flood. Plus, Vice President Harris grabs a major endorsement who just joined the list of supporters.
And we had temperatures hover around normal, the 80s and 90s, though they will return somewhere, and I'll tell you when in a few minutes.
Dedicated to eastern and southern Kentucky, this is WYMT Mountain News First at 4.
Good afternoon, I'm Steve Hensley. First at 4, Governor Andy Beshear made his way to the mountains today, celebrating with communities ahead of this weekend's anniversary of the devastating flood that hit the area in 2022. WYMT's Buddy Forbes has more about the high spirits at the new High Ground community in Floyd County.
From no hope to new homes, 11 families in Wayland just received the keys to what they're calling promise and progress.
I'll see what I can do.
State and local officials joined Appalachia Service Project at the Wayland Volunteer Fire Department, dedicating the new High Ground community and marking the beginning of a new chapter for 11 of the families impacted by the July 2022 flood. Governor Andy Beshear says the development was the fastest built high ground site effort so far.
Floyd County's doing it first.
With ASP reporting only 4 months between construction and completion, a feat Beshear says was only possible because of the dedicated workers who put their all into helping the people of Wayland build back.
And what an amazing thing that is, to go from a moment of tragedy to one of triumph. For us to work so hard to make people maybe even better off after everything that they have been through. So today is truly special.
One homeowner says it's really hard to explain that feeling of finally coming home, saying it's something she's been waiting for nearly 2 years. In Floyd County, Buddy Forbes, WYMT Mountain News.
Governor Beshear announced plans to more than double the number of homes being built in Wayland, with 13 more homes planned for the second phase of that high ground development. It's certainly been a roller coaster ride for the flood survivors, but some are seeing the good in the bad that came during that tragic time in July 2 years ago. WYMT's Phil Pendleton continues our coverage in Knott County and spoke to those thankful for the blessings that came during and after the flooding.
Troublesome Creek behind me looks hardly like it did during that devastating and tragic flooding 2 years ago. It is so low, so shallow, you can't even see the top of the water from where I'm standing up here on the banks. But it caused devastation, and people say that it was so hard to believe, knowing what had happened in the past, what was about to take place that terrible night 2 years ago.
Text them and told them, hey, there's a bad flood going on here. I'm not sure what's going to happen, but I love you guys.
Carolyn Short texted her kids on July 28, 2022, fearing she might not survive the night. She and her family rushed to the attic when Troublesome Creek became a dangerous river of destruction and death. She feared she was also going to be a victim. But 2 years later, she's in a brand new house on top of a mountain far away from the river. Her old home belongs to someone else. She's reflecting on her numerous blessings since that horrible night that killed 22 in Knott County. As Governor Andy Beshear visited the area and also paid tribute.
We want to make sure that we continue to recognize that loss. We continue to read these names and keep their memories alive, and continue to carry the grief of these families for as long as they will let us.
There is still an awful lot of work to do for some. There are still some living in rental property. There are some roadways that still need fixing, and some people still cannot find a more permanent home for whatever reason. In Knott County, Phil Pendleton, now back to you.
Governor Beshear also said that people worked so hard to get assistance and relief that they changed how FEMA operates. The governor is in Breathitt County right now and also stopped not long ago in Perry County. We'll have more on those stops tonight at 6 and 11.
Temperatures today were in the low to mid 80s. 85 is where we should be for this time of year. We made it to 86 so far in Hazard, 83 in Manchester, 82 in London, 86 in Somerset, 83 in Monticello, 10 cooler in Wise. Clintwood's checking in with a temperature of 81 degrees. Here's the latest with live pinpoint Doppler radar, seeing a little bit of rain activity over towards the Harlan, Norton area, Middlesboro area, and then portions of Campbell and Claiborne County in northeastern Tennessee. But that's about it in terms of any type of rainfall at this hour. So when you wake up in the morning, we'll see temperatures going in the mid to upper 60s, low 60s towards Wise, 62 in Clintwood, 62 in Grundy, 66 in Logan, 64 degrees will be the temperature in Manchester. Now the next 12 hours keeps temperatures in the mid 80s by the 5 o'clock hour. 9 o'clock we go to 76. By the time you join us tonight at 11, we'll be hovering around 72. 5 a.m., look at that temperature, 63 degrees. Now, coming up in the first alert forecast, Steve, we're going to talk about a 50-50 weekend. One day is going to be pretty darn nice. The other day we have rain and thunderstorm chance. I'll tell you which day is which coming up in a few minutes. Steve.
All right, Eric, thank you. Former President Barack Obama endorsed Vice President Kamala Harris, putting his stamp of approval on her bid to run for president. WYMT Washington correspondent Ashanti Ford has been tracking this and joins us now with more on what this means for the Harris campaign.
Now, President Barack Obama is arguably one of the most liked presidents since JFK, so his endorsement of VP Harris has the ability to boost her campaign efforts, specifically among young black voters.
We called to say Michelle and I couldn't be prouder to endorse you and to do everything we can to get you through this election and into the Oval Office.
The Obamas join a long list of supporters, including former President Bill Clinton and congressional leaders like Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries. A new CNN poll shows that VP Harris is trailing her opponent, former President Donald Trump, at 46% to 49%. And while he is the first former president to be convicted of felony crimes, Mr. Trump was just recently endorsed by the National Association of Police. Now, in a social media post, the president of the association thanked Mr. Trump for his support of law enforcement. Reporting from the nation's capital, I'm Ashanti Ford.
Former President Trump is meeting with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu at Mar-a-Lago. It's their first face-to-face talks in nearly 4 years. It comes a day after Netanyahu visited the White House, meeting separately with President Biden and Vice President Harris. The Biden administration is dialing up pressure for the Israeli Prime Minister to close a ceasefire deal that would also bring hostages home. California's largest wildfire is 0% contained, 2 days after it reportedly began with a burning car. The Park Fire is raging out of control in Northern California. Firefighters say debris carried by strong winds is sparking new flames, making the fire's path unpredictable. Some of those who were forced to leave their homes as the flames moved in are now returning. One evacuee watched her home burn down in real time through her security camera.
This is the last of my home. I think I might be in shock. It's surreal. It really is surreal.
Investigators now believe this fire was started by 42-year-old Ronnie Stout. Witnesses say they saw him pushing a flaming car down an embankment. He's now in custody facing charges of arson. Coming up on First at 4, it's an Olympic tradition that's been popular for the past 40 years. We'll take you inside the world of Olympic pin collecting.
And in the world of weather, we have rain chances in the forecast, and we were talking about that Park Fire. How is that going to impact our air quality here in eastern Kentucky? I'll have that answer in a few minutes. Stay with us.